Hello everyone, welcome back to the Lingua Loom. Today we're going to start another episode of the Tracing the Critic series, which is episode number 8, and the work we're going to discuss is of Samuel Johnson. So before starting the video, please do like, subscribe and share and turn on notifications for more updates, and do comment as it means quite a lot for the channel. So it is preface to Shakespeare, written in 1765. A neoclassical critic dismantles the neoclassical rules themselves, defending Shakespeare's violation of the unity and his mixture of tragedy and comedy by appeal to a deeper standard. Truth to general human nature. So let's start. Section 1 is The Man and His Movement. Samuel Johnson, who's a poet, essayist, biographer, lexicographer, critic, spent 8 years compiling his Dictionary of the English Language. So he was the first one who compiled the Dictionary of English Language in 1755. Essentially, single-handedly, a feat of the future Oxford English Dictionary would need 70 years and 70 scholars to match. By 1765, when his edition of Shakespeare's play finally appeared, Johnson's was already the dominant critic authority in England. Its 72-page preface is widely considered the finest part of the whole edition, the moment that authority gets pointed directly at Shakespeare. So the text, the critical preface, not the treatise, or treatise, depending on how you pronounce it. I was saying treatise. The preface does two jobs at once. First, it defends Johnson's editorial choice for the play, and it delivers an independent critical verdict on Shakespeare as a dramatist. Scholars generally lead it in three movements: that's Shakespeare's excellence, his genuine fault, and Johnson's extended case against the three classical unities. What sets apart from simple fandom is that middle movement, where Johnson refuses to be an uncritical admirer, which is exactly what makes his praise when it counts for something. So as he said, the Shakespeare is above all writers, at least above all modern writers, the poet of nature, the poet that holds up to his readers a faithful mirror of manners and of life. So general nature, Johnson's central standard. Okay, the single most important idea is the preface is general nature. Shakespeare's greatness, Johnson's arche, comes from representing universal human experience, not the particular customs of one time and place. His characters aren't individual frozen to historical movement, they embody emotion and conflicts recognizable in any era. So nothing can please many and please long, but just representations of general nature. As Samuel Johnson said in his work, it answers the question that opened the preface: why do we cherish dead writers and neglect the living ones? So this is a very debatable question that is very much also in literature, that we always talk about the past. Okay, this writer was great, this writer. But why do we always neglect the living ones? They are always there for us. The only length of duration, the time of the test of time, proves lasting merit, and only universal truth survives that test. Johnson pushes the point of to Shakespeare's character directly. In the writings of other poets, a character is too often an individual. In those of Shakespeare, it is commonly a species. A jealous husband, an ambitious general, a grieving father, it is a type, not just a man, which is why audience centuries and cultures removed still see themselves in these figures. For Johnson, this carries a moral weight too, capturing universal human truth as genuine instruction values, a tradition running back through Sidney and Horace. So Johnson's defense of Shakespeare against the unity. The preface, single most consequential argument, targets the three Aristotelian unities: time, place, and action, where 18th-century neoclassical critics treated as nearly inviolable Shakespeare routinely broke the unities of time and place. Johnson's contemporary called that defect. Johnson called it irrelevant. So the first argument is the audience always know it is in the theatre. Johnson's foundational move, the rationale for the unities preserving a sense of realistic illusion, rests on a false premise. Since theatrical audience never actually believe the event on stage are literally happening. The second argument, the unity of time and place are logically flawed. Johnson goes further than simply defending Shakespeare. He argues that the unities themselves rest on an internal contradiction when examined closely. The third argument presented by Johnson is Johnson does not reject all unities. So he does not actually reject all unities. He affirms that Shakespeare plays do, in fact, satisfy this more important unity, which is of time and place. So there is always an appeal open from criticism to nature. So basically, Johnson is trying to defend Shakespeare's work. The defense of tragicomedy. Johnson turns the same anti-dogmatic method on the second neoclassical rule, which is the demand for generic purity, which condemned mixing tragedy and comedy in one play. The same for Dryden stage between Lycidias and Neander, a century earlier. Johnson's defense is mixing reflects life itself more accurately than artificial separation. Sustained and relieved grief or unrelieved comedy alike eventually fatigues an audience. Pleasure depends on variety and argument he would actually already made in his Rambler essay before the preface. His tragedy seems to be skill, his comedy instinct. So this is what he said about Shakespeare. So comedy came naturally to Shakespeare. Johnson's thought durable and undated precisely because it draws in real life speech. Tragedy shows the visible stain of toil and study, yet Johnson still finds it a weaker mode of, by comparison, a candid, qualified judgment that fits his larger method of balanced praise and criticism. Excellence and defects Johnson's balanced method. So, excellence Johnson identifies as faithful representation of general nature, which is universal rather than merely local human truth. Then characters that embody species of humanity, not just individuals. A natural, undated comic register drawn from real life speech. Then genuine satisfaction of the unity of action despite disregard for time and place. The capacity to move audience powerfully to both tears and laughter. This is Johnson said about Shakespeare. Then defects Johnson identifies are the same as he defended it. He also showed defects to a perceived lack of consistent, clear moral purpose across the plays. Then carelessness in plotting, the use of coarse language and vulgarity. Then the fourth one is a tendency towards excessive wordplay. Fifth one is inconsistent attention to historical and geographical accuracy. So, as Boswell recognized, the point wasn't to diminish Shakespeare, it was to make Johnson's praise credible. An uncritical eulogy involves suspicion of a mere fashion, a judgment that ignores real flaws while still affirming greatness carries far more authority. So, here, Johnson not only defends but also critiques Shakespeare's work too, that they are admirable but they still have some of the flaws too. Then common misconception that Johnson rejects all classical rules of drama outright, which is a misconception about him. Then the second misconception, Johnson was just an uncritical defender of Shakespeare. That's not true. He criticizes him too. Then the third one is general nature just means Shakespeare wrote realistically. Well, that's a misconception. Johnson was the first to question the unities. No, there were few before him too. And the key terms, let's look at the general nature. Now here's the definition of it. Johnson's central critical standard, which is the representation of universal, trans-historical human emotion, motivation, and conduct, as opposed to merely local time-bound custom or particular individual detail. For Johnson's only works grounded in general nature survived the test of time, since local or tropical appeal inevitably varies as customs change. Then the next one is the three unities: time, place, and action. The neoclassical dramatic rule derived from Aristotle's Poetics we have discussed it earlier. You can check out the video. Treated by Johnson's contemporary as near essential to serious drama, Johnson affirmed the unity of action and character while decisively rejecting the unity of time and place as resting on the flow account of theatrical illusion. Then the next is tragic comedy, the mixing of tragedy and comic elements within a single drama, defended by Johnson on the ground that variety, not generic purity, better serves both pleasure and truth to life. Since pleasure consists in variety and sustained grief or sustained comedy alike eventually fatigues an audience. That's why theatrical illusion or willing delusion, Johnson recognized articulated first in his Rambler essays that audience willingly accept theatrical convention as the kind of deliberate contained delusion, knowing throughout that they are watching actors in a theatre, not real events. This insight underlines his rejection of the unity of time and place and anticipates Coleridge's later, more famous formulating of the willing suspension of disbelief. So these key themes may sound difficult, but they are how they're presented in the work, so they'll remember it and to be learned like that. Okay, Johnson's distinction between characters that represent only a particular individual and characters that represent an entire species of humanity, recognizable types of human motivation and conduct. Johnson considered this as a source of Shakespeare's character enduring cross-cultural recognizability. So these are the key terms. Now let's look at the legacy, the closing phrase. First, starting from 1750 to 52. The Rambler, earlier formulations, theatrical illusion, tragic comedy, nature versus custom. Then comes 1764 publication of the preface, opened Johnson's 8-volume Shakespeare edition, and instantly becomes a landmark. Then Lives of the English Poets, 1779 to 81, extend the balanced praise and censor method to English poets, including Dryden and Pope. Okay, let's scroll a bit. Then 1791, The Life of Samuel Johnson. Boswell's biography frames the excellent and defect method as a source of preface lasting authority. Then comes 1817, Coleridge, The Willing Suspension of Disbelief. Coleridge's willing suspension of disbelief develops Johnson's earlier insight about theatrical delusion. The present continuing authority, rejecting mechanical rules for fidelity to general nature and balancing admiration with censor, remains foundation to criticism itself. So this shows these are the from where the data has been taken. You can check out them in detail if you want to. So this is what Samuel's work is about. He defended Shakespeare's work, but also criticized it too, making his work as far more admirable as he not only just became one-sided, he constantly, wherever he supported Shakespeare, he also criticized him too, showing that every great work has a flaw too. Nobody is perfect. So this is it for today. There's also a blog on our website too to check out too. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.